C.J. Stroud led the Texans to their second straight division title and wild card victory despite having a decline in his production from his Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign back in 2023. Houston hopes a retooled offensive line and another year for Stroud and head coach DeMeco Ryans will yield greater results in year 3 of their partnership. We now welcome in CBS Sports NFL analyst Ryan Wilson, as I guess it is fair to say C.J. Stroud eyeing a bounce-back season in year 3. It wasn't necessarily a sophomore slump, but maybe more of an up-and-down year for the signal caller. His yards per attempt took a dip along with yards per game. His interception rate more than doubled, but nonetheless, he did lead his team to their second straight 10-win season and a playoff berth. But Ryan, how are you analyzing what year 3 means for Stroud?
Hey, Kiana, good to see you as always. And I think it's great when your quarterback in his second year isn't quite having a sophomore slump, but he wins 10 games for the second straight year, and he goes to the playoffs for the second straight year, and he wins a playoff game for this. These are great problems to have. But your point is a valid one. He probably would admit that he wasn't as good in 2024 as he was in 2023. And here's what hasn't changed: who the Texans quarterback is. Here's what has changed: who the Texans offensive coordinator is. We heard Evan talk about it. They got rid of Bobby Slowick right after the playoff loss back in January, which is sort of a crazy thing to think about because 12 months prior to that, there was no name hotter in head coaching circles than Bobby Slowick. In comes Nick Caley from the Rams, by the way, the Patriots. And look, training camp's been up and down for CJ as he learns his new offense, but I think he's going to be better this year than he was last year, and I think the team's going to have a chance to win 10-plus games again, and they're going to do it in part because he's going to get better and also because that defense is going to be lights out. Okay, we're going to talk about that defense in just a minute, but I want to stay on offense for a quick second because last year Stroud had injuries and inconsistencies with his supporting cast of pass catchers. I mean, you think about Tank Dell, who dealt with a season-ending knee injury, Stephon Diggs, who missed the final 9 games of the season with that ACL injury. But now with Diggs and Foxborough, Ryan, how should Stroud feel just about the weapons that he's got surrounding him this time around? He should feel really good. They used their second and third round picks on Iowa State wide receivers Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, and they're both having really good camps. They're completely different players. Jaden Higgins is in the Nico Collins mold, while Noel is in the Tank Dell mold. Tank Dell almost certainly won't play this year because of a serious injury last year, which is unfortunate. He's another guy who had a fantastic rookie season. Christian Kirk is having a good camp coming back from that collarbone injury. They have Dalton Schultz at tight end. So they have reasons for optimism at a position that was incredibly banged up last year. That also played a part in why CJ was inconsistent at times, as did the offensive line, and they've reshuffled the offensive line. They have Cam Robinson at left tackle. I think he got banged up yesterday. We'll see what that means for the rest of training camp. They drafted Arante Ursery in the second round out of Minnesota, so they've made a path in order to keep CJ upright and to have his pass catchers get consistently open down the field when they're healthy. So those are 2 more reasons for optimism if you're a Texas fan. Okay, good news for the O-line, good news for the receiving core, but their ground game maybe with some question marks of their own. I mean, plenty of proven veterans, but health might be their greatest hurdle. Joe Mixon was placed on the team's non-football injury list with Week 1 in jeopardy. Newly acquired running back Nick Chubb, we know he's dealt with his history of injuries, but he's also coming off of a broken foot at the tail end of last year. They did bring in 2 ball carriers in the draft, but do you have any reservation when it comes to Houston's backfield this season? No, they're real concerns. They finished 28 in rush EPA last year, and that's not great, no matter how you paint that picture. But part of the issue is this. Joe Mixon's banged up, but the good news is maybe he comes back week 2 or week 3. And you know what? Let's be real. Sometimes you don't need your veterans doing a whole bunch in August. So maybe this is a forced rest for the rest of his body as well. Nick Chubb, obviously banged up last year, and he moved on from Cleveland, one of the best players in Cleveland history. If you get 60% of Nick Chubb to go along with Dameon Pierce, assuming he can bounce back to what he did as a rookie a few years ago. They traded up for Woody Marks in the draft out of USC, who gives you an element as a pass catcher. Of all the positions you want to worry about, not having a ton of depth at running back isn't the biggest among those if your offensive line, your wide receivers, or your quarterback are where they need to be. So they can survive this, but they have to stay healthy, and their big players have to make big plays early. Okay, now I want to circle back to what we were talking about at the top of this because you mentioned it. Defense was their calling card last season. I mean, head by Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., they combined for 23 of the team's 49 sacks. Then you got the secondary that garnered 19 interceptions last season. They brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson to bolster that secondary this offseason. But how are you stacking up this unit with the rest of the league? I think they have a chance to be one of the best units in the conference. And you talked about the two edge rushers and Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. And here's how good Will Anderson Jr. Has been, that they traded up from what I think they went to 3. They drafted CJ at 2. They traded back up at 3 to get Will Anderson Jr. And they gave up a ton. And no one is complaining about it, Kiana, because that's how good he's been. Typically, when you have these trade-ups in the draft and the picks don't work out, that's all you hear about. So Will Anderson Jr. has been a game wrecker from day one. Danielle Hunter, we know what he can do. And you talk about that secondary that's young and fast and ball hawks. Forget about Derek Stingley Jr., who's gotten paid, and understandably so. They have Kalen Bullocks, who's been really good. They have Kamari Lasser, who was a second-round pick last year, who probably could have been a first-round pick based on the way he's played. So there are a ton of reasons to feel good about the secondary and the pass rush. And I think D'Amico Ryan's going to continue to make this unit. They're going to get better and better. And they're going to, look, if the offense struggles early, the defense will carry them until they get their feet on the ground and get things going again.
I mean, that's something that we saw a little bit of as well last season. If they happen to struggle, at least that's something that you can lean on. But, Ryan, I want to be honest with you. I think we're going to be honest with each other here. AFC South, I mean, regarded as maybe one of those softer divisions in the NFL. I'm using that word to, massage what I'm saying. But some of the Texans' counterparts are on the come-up. I mean, the Jags, they have their new head coach, Travis Hunter. We can't discount that. Colts bolstering their secondary this offseason. Titans got themselves a new young signal caller. So now I want to ask you, where's your confidence level in Houston winning the AFC South for the 3rd consecutive year?
It's hard not to be excited by the Jaguars. James Gladstone was on the podcast with me and Rand Carthon over the summer talking about that trade, and he'll make you run through a wall. And the thought process behind Travis trading for 5-2 typically feels like an overpay. It almost felt like they underpaid. He's been so good in training camp thus far, playing on both sides of the ball. But I still have reservations about Trevor. He's going into yet another new offense with Liam Cohen, who's obviously very good at what he does. Had a lot of success with Baker Mayfield in Tampa, but we just haven't seen him put it together consistently over the course of the season, whether it's injury or otherwise. So I'm going to stick with the Tennessee Titans. That would be funny.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to stick with the Houston Texans. No, I'm going to stick with the Houston Texans. Rand Carthon would love that one, wouldn't he? I'm going to stick with the Houston Texans, even though maybe there's a 45% chance that we see the Jaguars do it and 55 leaning towards Houston. I discount, and we can play this back if we want to in January, the Colts and Tennessee do anything this year. I think it's going to be a two-team race between the Jags and the Texans.
Okay, that's fair. I think a lot weighing on, like you said, Trevor Lawrence and what he does this year. But like you mentioned, those Jags now the second shortest odds to win in the division. So we'll see Houston how they can perform as well. As always, Ryan Wilson bringing the best. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, so off year or not, CJ Stroud leading the Texans to back-to-back postseason appearances, but also winning both wild-card contests. He's just the 6th quarterback to win a playoff game in both of his first 2 seasons in the NFL. But an even more impressive feat, he's the first top 3 QB to do so. So can he make it 3 in a row?